Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Hash Eggs and Football is sponsored by CrookedRiverRadio.com. Crooked River Radio is an internet radio station that is live 24/7 playing top 40 hits from the 60s through the 80s. You can find us on Live 365, Simple Radio, Roku, Radio Garden, and even Alexa, as well as our website. Come on and join us on the Crooked River.
Welcome to Hash, Eggs, and Football, where we talk about this week's games as Monday morning armchair quarterbacks. Here's your hosts Erik, Nannarone, and Pat Morrow.
Did somebody
Hello
say...
and welcome to Hash, Eggs, and Football. I'm Erik.
And I'm Pat.
And today we are talking Ohio State versus Michigan and
Cleveland Browns
versus Ravens. Well, today we're going to start off talking Buckeyes and that disaster of a game.
I want to make...
Both games were a disaster, but we'll start off with the worst disaster. First takeaway, no defense for Ohio State. There's no excuse to give up. Yes, Michigan's good. There's no excuse to give up. How many points did they give up? 43, I think. Anyway, there's no excuse to give up that many points. I don't mind them losing. Okay, yay, Michigan got their only win that they get every 10 years. But I don't mind that. But there's no excuse at all for giving up that many points. I don't care how good they are. You're supposed to be... They were saying in pregame that since Ohio State made the change at D coordinator, that they are one of the top 5 defenses. They played like one of the bottom 5 defenses in the country, not the top. So there's no excuse at all. There better be coaching moves made to the assistant coaching staff. Defensive coordinator, and I want to make a correction on something I've said a couple times in the last few shows, that Jeff Hathley is actually the head coach at Boston College, and he's been there for the past 2 years, so he is not the assistant, the co-defensive backs coach. He is the head coach at Boston College. So there's that, and then if you want to get into, Kerry Combs' resume, he's a failed NFL assistant. He actually left. He was under Mike Vrabel for Vrabel's first couple of years in Tennessee, and he left on horrible terms with Mike Vrabel. So there's no reason at all for Combs to have that high of a position, and at this point, I don't know if there's even a reason to have him on the staff, because his unit that he was coaching has severely underperformed.
Yeah.
So, why, if they keep underperforming like they have the last 2 years, why have him on the staff and have them keep underperforming and playing horrible? I just think it's time for him to go.
What are you going to replace him with?
There's competent guys around college football. Or maybe they'll get lucky and be gifted a coach from somewhere else, like Jim Harbaugh was with his defensive coordinator, gifted by his brother.
That little gifting was probably the downfall of this Ohio State team this year. The simpler, as far as that Michigan game goes, he brought somebody in, and Harbaugh, I've always said Harbaugh really doesn't know what the hell he's doing up there.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't impress me as much of a coach. But if you put anybody that puts a competent staff around himself can actually do fairly well in most aspects. If you worked in any kind of a trade, as far as like I did for the 30 or so years that before I retired, you can bring any kind of management in that you want to. It's the grunts that do the work, and it's the grunts that actually make that place of business perform. And what's happened is he brought in an educated grunt, and it actually paid off a little bit for him. And I think Day was a little bit shocked because of it. But I think a lot of that defeat Saturday had a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Young and very aggressive defensive coordinator versus an unproven younger defensive coordinator. Well, play caller. I don't think he was really given the defensive or the coordinator title. The guy at Ohio State. And he wasn't there the whole year. But they just need to overhaul that whole staff.
I want to make a disclaimer here. I want everybody to understand where I sit as far as a fan of Ohio sports. I've always been a fan of Ohio. And I've been watching the Cleveland Browns since 1964. And I've been watching the Ohio State Buckeyes since probably I graduated high school, which would have been the year 1973. I've always liked the Buckeyes, and I've always liked the Browns. I've stuck with both teams through thick and thin, and everywhere in between. And anything that's said or talked about in this show is a reaction as a fan. It's not a reaction of what should be, what shouldn't be, whatever. My reaction is of a fan. If you've noticed anything or you follow me on Facebook, you'll see one thing. As far as the Browns are concerned, I've started to try to get I've started a hashtag about them. And it's no more excuses Browns. I've sat for, 64? That's roughly 55 years now, hearing the same damn excuses over and over and over every time they lose. And as a fan, I'm getting sick of it. It's a wonder they got any fan base left.
And they're always
and it's
the
Ohio
fan base.
Ohio
Ohio
State is almost. I won't say they're as bad as what the Browns, my following of the Browns are, but the simple fact of it was they went in there thinking they were kings, and they weren't anything but a pauper. They went in there thinking they were the best things, and they didn't. They didn't have to really play that hard to beat Michigan, and they were supposed to blow them out, and it was supposed to be 50-0 right off the bat. That didn't happen because somewhere along the lines, I'll bet you somebody in Michigan got ticked off at all the losses and decided to try to fix it, and they did a nice job of it. I'd give them that.
Exactly.
It's kind of unfortunate that I don't even know if Ohio State will get a bowl game, will they?
They will, but it'll be a bullcrap game that nobody cares about. It won't be New Year's Day.
It's not this coming week anyway. With the
Conference
playoffs,
championship.
the conference playoffs and all that. But it is what it is, And if you've listened to this show at all, you'd probably understand where we're all coming from. It's not that we dislike our current teams. I've said it last night, and I'll say it again. This last weekend, was really tough to be an Ohio fan of any sport, and that includes Cavaliers and whatever.
Like, personally, I don't like saying, people should be fired, but I don't also feel bad for these coaches who are fired because, okay, maybe not as much in college, but NFL, especially with head coaches and top assistants, they're paid no matter what. Their contracts are guaranteed, still making $1 million plus a year. So, if they were working at a grocery store or something, yeah, obviously I would not want to see somebody get fired or be rooting for somebody at a grocery store to get fired or and somebody in the real world to get fired. But this, for that, to us, for them, they're not the real world. You don't get paid to sit on your couch and do nothing for a couple years. You don't get paid to go away. These guys, at least top assistants and head coaches, they get millions of dollars. They're 5-year contracts.
And there again, if you want to take and start talking about how a certain team gets into the playoffs every year and every year and every year, you're going to have to change the whole structure there. And I think a lot of that's starting to happen with the combination of the Big Ten and the Big 12. You're gonna see some changes there. I think eventually that aren't going to be the same 4 or 5 teams in the playoffs every year.
Did you see?
And we're about time to do that.
On a side note, did you see who's becoming the head coach at Southern Cal?
No, Urban.
No. Lincoln Riley, the coach of Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, I saw he was leaving. I saw he was leaving Oklahoma.
And I just saw Bob Stoops, who is working for Fox, their pregame is going to be coaching. I don't know how that's going to work, but coaching them in their bowl game until they find a coach.
Yeah, well, I guess from what I'm understanding, there's a couple of teams now that are going to have to take, and I think Dallas is a Dallas football coach is out because of COVID, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with that mess for Thursday night.
Oh.
They play New Orleans Thursday night, and from what I'm understanding, the coach has got COVID.
Oh, that's a big problem.
And well, it'll be like it was when it happened here.
But who knows if they have competent coaches on their staff?
Dallas is kind of fledgling like the Browns are, and I expect a lot more from the Dallas team than what we're getting.
Don't they usually do that though? They start off kind of good and then tail off at the end.
By now, as far as we're 12 games in, and by now you should be getting ready to make a run at the playoffs if you're going to do it. And Cleveland should have done that last night, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ready to talk about them yet, but when we do get there, I'm going to make some very pointed remarks about them.
And just getting back to Ohio State in general, I don't know if Stroud, yeah, I know I've been a little tough on him, over this year. I don't know if he's yeah.
I think Stroud did okay for the first year. That was a hell of a game he had to play. And I don't think he was limited hardly at all for most of that game. I think he did pretty well for a first year guy.
Yeah, he did okay, but he could have done a lot better accuracy wise. Well, a lot of people are making the excuse of, oh, the weather was bad, the weather was bad. Well, if there's a 50-50 chance in 2 years when he gets drafted, he'll get drafted by a bad weather team. Well,
yeah, what's he going to do if he ends up in Green Bay, where it snows all the time, or Washington, or Minnesota?
Minnesota, any of those, you know.
What's he going to do when he gets there if he can't stand the snow? Pray for rain?
Yeah, exactly. It just he better be praying that he gets drafted by one of the LA teams or Vegas, because their quarterback is kind of getting older and washed up and should be gone, retired soon.
I have thought of one other topic I want to cover outside of the football realm. Don't let me forget this by the end of the show. I want to talk about that LeBron James thing and that little fight skirmish he got into.
Oh, and I actually, I was listening to you on Saturday, and I was going to call in or comment, and I forgot about, did you see the highlights of the game against Sacramento where they lost in triple overtime on Friday night?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they lost in LA lost in triple overtime to Sacramento, who is the 11th seed in the Western Conference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Things are not going too well in Bronville.
No, not at all.
I did see. I mentioned this on the other show Saturday. I actually got a chance to sit down and watch that Space Jam 2, that movie with LeBron in it. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it about as much as I did the first one, except for the fact that they went out of their way to try to advertise, or they tried to make it an advertisement for Warner Brothers.
Wow.
But you expect that in a movie like that. They had all the characters in there, and they had actually made some comments about Bronny, or about Braun, that in the beginning of that show, they made fun of him taking his talents.
Yeah.
And then returning to Cleveland. And every time they're about halfway through the movie, every time that Bugs Bunny would talk to him, he'd call him Cleveland. That was kind of cute.
But, we could also talk about our old friend Odell.
Yeah, we are gonna cover that one. Well,
Yeah.
In fact, let's do that. Let's do that now. Did you see that game last night?
I watched bits and pieces, but I saw him get hurt.
I watched
a little bit.
Almost all of that game just because I wanted to see how he looked. And he is about as clueless on that team as he was on the Browns. He has no idea where to stand. He has no idea why is this guy such a great athlete?
But
I'll give him one thing. He caught that 54-yard pass or what amounted to a 54-yard pass for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was supposed to do. But as far as his, if you watch that game, I got a big screen TV, so I can pretty much see where everybody's at and the numbers. And I kept watching his number, and he'd look sideways, and you'd always see one of the guys on the one side or the other of him going, move down, move down. He had no idea he hit him.
I mean, as I said the week that we had cut him, and of course, we were having technical difficulties, so I don't think it went over the air. I thought it was pretty funny, but you know, with Odell or any of these diva wide receivers, you know, they you get physical with them, and you know they'd rather be in the spa getting their nails done or something, you know, than be on the football field and get physical or have somebody get physical with them, because that just shuts them right down. You know, Odell can't have a defender get physical with him. Once Marvin Humphrey did that a couple of years ago from the Ravens, Odell's first year in Cleveland. That really showed defenses get a little physical with Odell, and he'll mostly do nothing.
Yep.
He'll do nothing at all.
It just kind of got me that he was, you know, what I was seeing was exactly what he was doing here in Cleveland. To the T.
I mean, look at, when he went to LA, I think they were 8-1. Notice how since then, I believe they're 0-3.
Well, the thing with that, there is a kind of an excuse for that, because they've lost 2 injuries. They've lost a bunch of other players. So I wouldn't completely count that record on him. But
well, I mean,
there were passes there that he could have caught that he didn't. There was, you know, he was supposed to be in one place, and they were passing to him at the place that he was supposed to be, and he was on the other side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
I just really wasn't too impressed. You know, it was like watching him in Cleveland. I watched him quite a bit in Cleveland, and he did the same damn thing.
Exactly, and that's he tears apart chemistry, but yeah, he runs the routes he wants to, not where the quarterback wants him to. He runs where he wants to, and that throws off the play.
Yep.
I also saw something today with now Kareem Hunt's dad is getting involved on social media.
I was gonna talk about that a little bit. That's pretty disturbing, to say the least. That should be nipped in the bud there. And if, you know, or it's going to end up, Kareem could end up in the same boat that Odell was in. I don't know that Odell Beckham really wanted to leave here in the middle of the season. I think he wanted to stick it out, but I'm glad, for one thing, I don't care what the record ends up being. I'm glad he's out of here, because he was a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give me the ball. And then you get thrown the ball, and it hits you in the side, and you fall down, you trip over your own damn feet. That was what I saw with Beckham when he was here.
Exactly, but the thing is with if the video that Odell's dad posted got him mostly sent out of here, got him cut, and then if Kareem Hunt's dad gets him, you know, in trouble or whatever, but Baker's wife doesn't get him in trouble, you know, what's the standard there? You know, Baker should, well, actually, these people shouldn't really be, they should all be held accountable for what their family says, but if there shouldn't be the double standard, well, Baker's wife can come out and do whatever the heck she wants, but, you know, Odell's dad and Kareem's dad can't come out and talk and defend their sons or whatever.
There again, I think it's another thing where you've got to handle that internally. You got to tell that kid to tell his father to be quiet. You know, you're doing the best you can. That's part of the issue that I think Cleveland is having, is because they're mishandled as far as some of this coaching's going. And a lot of it's coming from Stefanski, because he's got so much on his plate trying to handle it all at once. He's trying to be offensive coordinator. He's trying to do. He's trying to keep the team on the tracks, and all that kind of. And I'm beginning to wonder if it's gonna work. You had at the beginning of this season, you had a team there that I predicted would be probably they'd have 3 losses. Vegas was saying they'd have 3 losses. Now I'm wondering if they're going to win 8 games. I don't know if they can do it.
I don't know either, because you have the bye week, then you have Baltimore again, you have Pittsburgh, and you have Cincinnati.
Plus you have Green Bay right around Christmas. It's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah,
but
it will be.
If they can get it back on the tracks, they'll be all right. A lot of teams, when they get into the bye weeks, they do a self-diagnostic, and I don't know if a self-diagnostic is going to be enough help for this team to bring it back around. They need to take and figure out how their coaching is doing and what it's not capable of doing, and they need to make some adjustments with that. And I don't know that that's going to happen. It'll be interesting to watch.
I mean, and the problem is the move. I know the defense played good last night, but they tend to have one good game and then they struggle, and then because Joe Woods gets cocky or whatever and thinks he's, the next coming of Bill. He thinks he's the next Bill Belichick, and then he gets knocked back down to earth.
Well, as far as Woods goes for yesterday, his play calling was decent. It wasn't great, but it was decent. The forced fumbles that they had and the interceptions and that they had were about what I expected that game to be. Where they fell flat on their damn face was that offense. And I'm going to tell you the truth. When I saw Landry step into Baker Mayfield's position, and that trick play, I screamed at the TV. You're going to try a damn trick play on that team? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah. I mean...
Are you out of your flipping mind?
Competency of the play calling is...
That was just stupid. Let's just call it like it is. That was just plain stupid. And for them to pull that was a slap in the face to the other side.
Exactly.
You pull a trick play like that, and it gets blown up, which it should have been to begin with. It should have never happened, because you should have more respect for the other team than that.
I don't mind trick plays. Don't do it on 3rd down when you need the conversion, though.
With a team that's as good as that damn Baltimore team is, you should have never done a trick play. That was stupidity at its finest.
I disagree there, because if you do it at the right time, though, you can,
The thing of it is, though, Eric,
throw 'em off.
they did it the last couple of weeks. They tried that same play, and it worked one time and fell apart the other. And, it was just dumb.
Yeah.
It was it was the dumbest play call they could have had there.
Again, yeah. In that situation, when they're looking, because it was a run, right? Yeah. So,
Well, it was supposed to be an option. Baker was going to take and probably take off into the end zone and it was an option where Landry could have either tossed it to Baker or ran it in. The game before that, they did the same thing, and it worked.
Yeah, I remember. I was there. I saw it,
but this time that was stupidity.
Yeah, it's all.
And if you can't call plays better than that, then you need to turn it over to your offensive coordinator.
And I mean, I think with their consistency this throughout the year of going for it on fourth down, when they could have just taken the points and gotten a field goal out of it in the red zone, and it's usually the first possession of the game, and they end up getting sacked every time that they've tried.
I'm going to tell you something. You know when I knew that game was over? When that kicker doinked that first kick. When they missed that first field goal. That game was over then. When I saw that, I thought, well, this is going to be a long night. And sure as heck, like I said, though, the defense kept them in it, but that damned offense had nothing going for it. And they're going to, I see it's 2 or 3 options that they're going to have to do. And especially with the occurrences that happened in this game. You lost Conklin for the year now. And that's a damn shame. He came back, he was in there a quarter, and he blew his knee out.
Oh, yeah.
And that is one thing. That was probably the biggest protection for Baker. And he's out for the season now. I'm thinking Baker can say all he wants, that he's healthy all he wants to, but he's not. He's not got the ability that he's had over the past 4 or 5 even games. He's just not playing. And what do you do with that? If I was Stefanski, I'd sit his butt. I'd sit his butt down and say, once you're healthy, you can come back in and play. Till then, we're going to give it to Case.
Exactly. For anybody listening, please leave your comments down in the comment box on whatever platform you're listening on. We will read them, most likely. But we do want to hear other people's opinions. So please leave your opinions in the comments down below whatever platform you are watching on, and we will read them.
There is no phone line because of some issues we had a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah.
If you're, you can still text that number, but you won't get through on the phone itself. So
yeah.
We decided to change directions on that.
So yeah, if the number that is scrolling at the bottom of the screen, if you want to text that number, please do. We welcome that.
Yep. All right, we got about 20 minutes left.
So, yeah. Is there anything else other than the picks I know that we're going to get into?
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes or so before we need to do the picks for the week. I did fairly well with the last week's picks. I was going to take and pick Baltimore. That's the only mistake that I didn't. And or I didn't do. We had there was some actually interesting games this last week that score-wise was pretty decent. Buffalo ended up, I think they won, and the Titans didn't win, which I think that the Titans played the Patriots, I think,
Yes, it was
And
the Patriots.
I expected the Titans. I expected more out of them than that.
Exactly. I mean,
They're saying that Bill could run the rest of the table now, and
mhm.
that's a shame.
I was watching NFL Network, I think, and the one guy's like, Josh McDaniels should be a head coach, and it's a travesty if he doesn't get a head coaching job next year. Huh. Failed back in the day. Players hated him to the point of being glad when they were cut by him, or to the point of saying, because I've heard some former players say, thank God they got out of there before he was there because he was such a horrible coach and
Well,
treated the players
you've
like
had
garbage.
several that they've done that with. The 49ers actually won against the Vikings too. I kind of predicted that.
Mm-hmm.
Looking to see what the rest of these are.
I also didn't realize, interesting kind of factoid, I heard yesterday, Nick Saban has 10 to 11 former assistants that are now head coaches in college football. So he's probably the most, in any level of football, that the most successful out of the quote-unquote coaching tree that he has had actually, again, be successful. Because even Belichick, he hasn't had, I don't think, any of his assistants, Romeo Crennel, Bill O'Brien, McDaniels, and a couple other guys, all have failed in their head coaching. Charlie Weiss, when he was at Notre Dame, failed. I mean, so he's never had success. Belichick's never had successful.
The one quarterback
assistants.
that he sent off ended up going to California, to San Francisco.
Yeah,
And he's doing
Garoppolo.
quite well. Yeah, Garoppolo.
Well, I'm talking about assistant coaches, though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, oh, wait. The only one to be successful is Mike Vrabel.
Yeah,
That's
Vrabel.
true.
That's all, folks.
Vrabel.
Vrabel does pretty well.
Factoid from the same town as I am from. Vrabel is, but yeah, he's the only legitimate assistant that Belichick has ever had as a head coach, or after being his assistant, I should say.
Who would have
But-
expected the Cincinnati Bengals to get 31 points up on Pittsburgh?
It's unbelievable what they've done to the other division teams, but look in turn what the Browns did to them the first time. Because they've beaten both Steelers and Ravens by 30. I think they beat the Steelers by 30. But they beat them by sizable amounts, but lost by sizable amounts to this disaster, this future dumpster fire of a team in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the other scores here just to be able to make comments on them. I think the Washington, that was actually a good game. Did you see Vegas and Dallas this last week?
Yeah, on Thanksgiving. Yeah.
That was a good game up to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And you just had a feeling Dallas was going was the thing that killed Dallas, and it does that with most NFL teams, was the penalties. If they wouldn't have had the penalties that they did, and they probably would have beat Vegas.
But I was kind of in and out. Were they legitimate penalties though, or were those?
A couple of them were nitpicky.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is anymore. But there was the ones that were legitimate were what they were called for.
I mean, I know there was the little bit of a fight on special teams where allegedly there were punches thrown, but according to the radio broadcast, there were punches thrown, but nobody was ejected.
Yeah, that actually was a pretty good game. I've watched more football in the last 2 months now than I think I've watched most of my life. And it's just because I've got the time to do it now.
Did you catch any of the Alabama versus Auburn game on Saturday?
No, but I did catch Cincinnati. That Cincinnati team is really pretty good.
Well, I mean, look who their head coach is. I mean, he's turned that team around.
Yeah, that was a pretty good game. I'm looking for the week 13.
I mean, when I saw Luke Fickell, after Ohio State, then I saw Luke Fickell was going to be the coach at Cincinnati. I didn't think he was going to be successful after his experience at Ohio State. But look what he's done. He's turned that into a top 10 team. He's turned them into a almost consistent top 10 team now.
Yep. All right, I guess it's time we can get into the picks before we wrap things up for this week. This is my first shot at these for this week. First up is Thursday night at 8:20, and that's Dallas at New Orleans.
Ooh.
The boys at the Saints.
New Orleans.
I don't know. It's going to depend if they can. Dallas is going to be without a coach, and that's going to play big time. So I'm kind of thinking, I hate to take Dallas on that one, or I hate to take New Orleans. I guess I'm going to go with New Orleans on that one because it depends. If they come up with a decent coaching staff, that'll go the other way. Because Dallas ain't too bad, and they didn't give. I'm going to take Dallas. I don't think New Orleans is as good as a Vegas, so I'll take them. Excuse me. Next up is Giants at Miami.
Oh.
Couple of bottom feeders here.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
But, okay, so on a side note to the Cowboys game, if you're looking at if McCarthy is out, their interim coach does have coaching experience, but really wasn't good. It's Dan Quinn, who used to coach in Atlanta. He did make the Super Bowl, but blew a 20-point lead in the Super Bowl. But the bottom feeder game, Miami.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Miami because they did win last week too.
Did you see who the Giants' offensive coordinator is?
Yeah, Freddie.
Yeah.
I did see that. Next up after that is Indianapolis at Houston.
Indianapolis.
I don't know. Houston might have a shot at that.
After this yesterday's game, after the Colts blew a big lead against Tampa. Did you see any of that game?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was bad. They were up by like 17.
Well, the Colts will probably want to come back from that, so they're going to be mad.
Wow.
We'll I'll do the Colts there. And we got Minnesota at Detroit. That's an easy pick.
Minnesota by 20.
Yeah, Minnesota by probably more than that. Although, the thing with Detroit, and I've said this a couple of times before, they haven't got a win yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not that far from it. They're hanging with the tough teams, and they're hanging tough, but they just haven't got there yet. And they did that with the Browns. They did that with Pittsburgh. And I kind of think that one of these days they're going to luck out, but I don't think it's going to be against Minnesota. I think I'll take Minnesota in that one.
I just, with Detroit, I don't know if they'll ever this season get a win. They play close, but they don't have the talent to push them over the top to get that win. They have Goff, but their receivers are okay. Their defense is horrible. They might have had a couple good games, but watching it in person, their defense, I think the Browns more played down to their competition and didn't take Detroit seriously.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, next up is Philadelphia at the Jets.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, not without a question there. And then Arizona at Chicago.
Arizona.
Yeah, I don't see Mr. Fields doing much with that game. But yeah, I'll take Arizona.
Also, on a side note, did you see who is now rumored to take over at Oklahoma?
No.
None other than the coach of the Arizona Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, now that you say the name, yeah, I heard he was in consideration. All right, we got the Chargers at Cincinnati.
Chargers.
Cincinnati's pretty hot.
Yeah, I know, but
Cincinnati, of course, it is a West Coast team.
Yeah. Going with your theory, it should be the Chargers.
I'll take Cincinnati, just to be different. And then we have Tampa Bay at Atlanta. At Hotlanta.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no question there. Jacksonville at LA.
LA.
Yeah, I guess. The Washington football team at Vegas. I'll take Vegas there. I'll take Vegas there too. And then we have Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
Ooh, Baltimore.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but old Ben's not going to be able to get through that one.
No.
And Frisco at the Seahawks.
Seahawks.
I'll take San Francisco there. That's a gut feeling. And then Denver at KC.
KC.
Yeah, I kind of think that too.
Denver just doesn't have a consistent quarterback.
And they're only about half and half anyway. They're similar to what the Browns are. And then the Monday night game is New England at Buffalo. That's going to be a close game. Because Buffalo is actually starting to come on now. And they beat the snot out of New Orleans the other day.
But the thing is, have they played the Patriots already this year? Because they're division foes, and they if they haven't played Mac Jones and don't have tape of themselves playing Mac Jones, that's where that might give the Patriots the advantage. I mean, I could see the Patriots pulling that off.
Well, the rumor has it that the Patriots could run the rest of the table.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
I like Buffalo. I think they're a tough team, and I think they're going to be a real competitor against New England. So I'll take Buffalo. And I think that's it for this week.
Yep, that is.
Sorry about that. Been a long day, long weekend, and a sad one for Ohio.
Yep, I think the Cavs might have won this weekend, so that I should probably look that up before I give you misinformation.
They're starting to come together a little bit, I think.
Oh yeah, well, they're getting guys back from injury too.
Yeah, was it Motley come back?
Mobley.
Mobley, yeah. He came back this week. Anyway, let's wrap this thing up for tonight. We will catch everybody. We're going to do one next week since the Browns don't play?
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll probably,
What are we going to talk about? No Ohio State? No Browns?
Well, what I wanna start, like, especially in the off season, we'll talk baseball, but we're gonna start talking a lot of hockey.
As in bull hockey?
Ha 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 ha. But we're gonna start talking hockey.
Even here, I still got it.
Yeah. Yes, you do. But we'll start talking hockey and maybe some not as talked about sports. I just gotta find.
Well, you're going to have to educate me on some of it because I follow basketball and I follow football.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just starting to get into hockey. So.
And if nothing else, we'll all sing and dance and carry on, tell jokes. Oh, that's the other show. Never mind.
Hey, we can, when there's no football to be talked about, we can turn this into something that's not all sports, you know. I'm open to go anywhere with this show once Ohio State and the Browns are not around.
Yep.
So, this show, well, plus we're rebranding too, so.
Yeah, I figure we'll do that after the end of the football season. With that, we will go ahead and wrap things up. Next up tomorrow night is the World According to Elmer at 7 o'clock. That runs from 7 to 8. Jerry Sorensen's I don't know what you call him, the Elmer E. And I'm the Elmer. And we talk about amateur radio and some of the fine things that happen in that. And then following that, Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, we have 4 Guys on Sports with Nate and Gordon Waters and Sean Morrow and myself. Then we got Sunday night, which is radioactive time, and that's 7 to 9. The crew should be back this coming week. We took the Sunday night off just because I didn't want to I was watching football and didn't really want to interfere with it. So we decided to do the nice thing and take the rest of the holiday weekend off, which
And-
reminds me that we will be probably suspending shows starting around Christmas Eve. Probably for Christmas week we won't be doing much of any. By then we will already be into Christmas music, which I'm thinking about starting the 15th of December. We'll start Christmas music, and then the 25th it'll end. And then
Which is a perfect segue into reminding everybody, Crooked River Radio is a 24-hour, 24/7 internet radio station where you can listen on crookedriverradio.com, the Live 365 app, Radio Garden, all Roku devices, and I know I'm forgetting a bunch of others, but that's...
you can even find us on Alexa if you tell her to play Live 365, and once she comes on with the Live 365, you tell her to find or to play Crooked River Radio Network, and it'll come on just like magic.
So you can find all the shows that Pat listed off on Crooked River Radio or on whatever platform you're listening on now. But Crooked River Radio does play the hits from the 60s to the 80s.
Top 40 hits.
Top 40, thank you. The top 40 hits from 60s to 80s. So,
Give us a
check
listen.
us out.
All right, until next week, we will see y'all and have a great week. This is the most appropriate song for this week I ever heard.
I know, exactly.